Likkutei Torah, Parshas Behar, page 80, second column. Like 12 lines in the top of the second column. The Alter Rebbe was explaining the various different methods of baking bread, which is in the spiritual, just like bread sustains the body, so the spiritual bread that sustains Hashem's being in the world. So he started explaining there's 4 parts of baking bread. There's planting, there's grinding, there's kneading, and then you have the baking. So he explained each one of these levels in the physical sense and then in the spiritual sense. And the bottom line is that planting is a level of bittul, in the higher level of ava, and then you have the level of grinding, which is again, like you explained before, is very briefly, there's the level again of basically bittul, you grind it up, and it doesn't become a yesh anymore. And then you have which is the level of yira, by the way, bittul. And then you have the level of kneading, which is taking many, diversity, and making into one. And then you come to the final stage, which is baking. What is baking? The immense heat makes it edible, which represents the level, like he says, of the varmkeit, the warmth, enthusiasm, the heat of Torah mitzvahs. And therefore he says now like this, and then when you learn Torah in the way of Zriya and Tchina and Lush and all these things, then it becomes it becomes absorbed in the limbs of Hashem, by a person doing all these avodas in a way that Yiddishkeit is one with the person. It's not that they have Yiddishkeit. And he says, what does it mean Talmud is in his hand? It means it becomes his, it becomes mamish one with the person. Now, but without this warmth, in baking, so to speak, it wouldn't be able to become absorbed in the limbs of the person. Then you can't eat raw dough and live from it. It's not going to become absorbed in you're going to get sick of anything. When it says, but lechem is when it's baked. If the bread is not baked, meaning Yiddishkeit is cold, and not only that, he says, it becomes mamish one with you, that 10 women bake in one oven means the 10 kaiches of the nefesh are baked in one unity. The keva, the stomach doesn't digest it, and then the raw bread, the raw dough, becomes inside. You swallow it, but it's not absorbed within you. It's 2 separate things. Without the level of afiyah, which is the warmth of making the many into one, the Torah learns is one thing. And he is something else. And then it's not called Talmudei biyodei. Biyodei means it's yours, right? If I have it in my hand, it means it's mine. Talmud has to be yours. What does it mean yours? It's not that you, the person, and Yiddishkeit are 2 separate things. I happen to be a Jew, and maybe even an observant Jew. The Judaism and the Jew are mamish one, inseparable. So that's the whole avoid of the Jew.
It has to be in his hand, ready to use.
Not ready, that it's absorbed. You and it is one.
Yeah.
There's not me thinking, should I do Torah mitzvahs? Torah mitzvahs is me. Nobody says, okay, now I'm going to go breathe. That's what the Rabbi spoke many times, that there's no such thing as vacation from Torah mitzvahs. Because the Torah mitzvahs is our life. It's like somebody will say, okay, I'm sick and tired of breathing for a whole year straight. I'm going to go on breathing vacation. I'm not going to breathe for a week. No, you're going to die. I mean, why can't you go on vacation from it? The work you can go on vacation from, because vacation, the work is not you. So you can go on vacation. But if you is breathing Torah mitzvahs, how can you go on vacation? Okay, but it also, before even you learn it has to be Ashri Misha Balakan. You have to come here. What does it mean coming here? I know la'eres la'ava b'tfilah b'metzias nefesh bitul b'metzias elav yizbarich, to awaken the love in davening and the giving up of one's will, and bitul metzias kadei sheyochol lilmid acher kachal derech hanal. But in order for learning to be proper learning, the Alter Rebbe said before, you need davening. What's davening? Bitul. The giving over, the level of Mesidas Nefesh. Therefore, the proper, appropriate time of learning is miyad acher tefillah. He said that before. Then, when you have this level of coming, meaning there's a level of tefillah, the Jew coming to Hashem, milmata l'mayla, then you have and tamud b'yodi, then you have ashrei, you're fortunate. Okay, skip a few. At the beginning of the Maamar, the Alter Rebbe asked a question that it says, the earth is going to have the sabbatical, and then you plant 6 years. So the question, first you have the 6 years, and then you have the sabbatical. You didn't start. It's like a guy interviews for a job. He said, okay, when do I start my vacation? You have to first work, and then you can have the vacation. So, how does the Torah right away start? The Shabbos Lashem. Okay, so he says this is what it means. When you come to the level of audits, the rotzin of Hashem, like it says, which is Eretz Yoyna. Which Hashem says, I am giving you. He's saying like this. The pasuk says, when you come to the land, when a Jew has the awakening from below, it's like the Baal Shem Tov said in the Hayom Yom of Chai Elul, that it's the not saying that the level of the neshama is coming into the body and all that, but the pasuk continues right away. The ability of a Jew to become closer to Hashem, to have momato l'mayla, is because Asher ani neisin lachem. It comes momayla, like we learned in the other Maamar. In order to have Adam ki Yaakov, you need Vayikra al Moshe. There has to be a push from above, and that's what he says. Ki savei mamin, ki avo amitis, real avo, he abom momayla, comes from above. But Sadich is saying to Sa'adam, you need the awakening of the person, ki savei al haaretz, b'sirusa de l'sati, sirusa de leila. What? Ba'az v'shav sa'aretz, meaning tzinius of haaretz, but that was the bittul of the land, ha'yeshir v'chinas bittul keichas ha'nefesh b'metzias, in the level of achesi, which he explained before. What's the level of achesi? Achesi is a natural instinctive love. It's not a love you have to awaken. Your brother or sister, it's there.
But Rabbi, apparently God did not give this equally to everybody. Just like some people are born very strong physically, some weak, also spiritually, or the inclination toward God in some, and their endowment is bigger than the others.
Again, we spoke about this yesterday in the class and privately. What's demanded from you is demanded from you. What's demanded from me is me. If it's demanded from him and her and her, is demanded from them. Hashem gives you what you need to do, and you have the ability to do it. Now, yes, every person is different. If every person would be exactly the same, the world wouldn't have the beauty of when the Gemara says, "Ein day same person, same Shabbos, ein day same Shabbos." No two people look alike. No two people think alike. No DNA is alike, right?
We don't have the same tools either.
But the thing is, Hashem gives you your mission with your ability to accomplish your mission. Like we were saying yesterday, if a guy can get a 70 on the test, that's all he's able to get. His function is not to get 100. His mission is to get a 70. And therefore, the only one can judge what you get on your test, if it's what you should be doing, officially supposed to be the teacher. But really, it's Hashem to know, are you doing what you're able to be doing? If a guy is supposed to get 100, he gets a 95, he failed his mission.
I think I'm exceeding my mission. So
You're very good, yeah, 100%. Shabbos Lashem, then the pasuk continues, Shabbos Lashem, bittul acher bittul. It should be one bittul after another. Ki savay al haaretz is bittul, right? And then it says, v'shavsa al haaretz, you have to make your will rest in bittul to Hashem. And then it says, Shabbos Lashem. So what's the redundancy? It says, v'shavsa al haaretz is sur meirah. And then Shabbos Lashem is asay tev. In other words, the pasuk is saying like this: Ki savay al haaretz. When a person is coming to become close to Hashem, to the Oretz, to the Shorotza Lasis, to the Tzayin Aviyah, to do what Hashem wants. So when a person is coming from Yishino Ashani Neisin Lachem, this power of a Jew to become close to Hashem, Hashem says is coming. But what's the avodah of the Jew now? Ki savay al haaretz, v'shav sa'aretz. You have to make bittul in your will. And then it says Shabbos Lashem. So what's the repetition, the redundancy? So he said, V'shav sa'aretz means make it rest, don't do work, sur meirah. And Shabbos Lashem is asay tev. In the avodah of the Jew and becoming closer to Hashem, primarily it's two things, turning away from lo yisaseh and naseh.
When you say don't do work, you're talking about the land. You shouldn't cultivate the land.
But the Jew shouldn't be doing work in the land.
Because I'm not sure.
But kazar gam gam kimchin is bittul. And then you can have shei shanim tizra sadecha. What's the inyan of 6 years? He says that shisha sidri mishnah. That refers to the 6 orders of Mishnah. In other words, in order to learn Torah properly, now that I've explained in the whole Maamar, you have to plant it with bittul and grind it and unite it and bake it. Then it becomes bread. So and that's Torah. Torah is called lechem. So when do you have shei shanim tizra sadecha? You must have first the level of kisavei al haaretz and v'shav sa'aretz Shabbos Hashem, and has to have the level of bittul, learning, davening before learning. Birchas ha'Torah, neisin ha'Torah, then you can go learn. And it says, Tizra, shei shanim tizra sadecha. Tizra ba'aretz hayenu, which is called Sada. Chakal tapuch kadishin, the holy apple orchard, Devar Hashem. Tis to be the level of Zriya. And then it continues, shei shanim tizmar karmecha. Tizmar and shei shanim tizra sadecha, on wheat you say tizra, and by karmecha, by vines, you say the word tizmar. That's the level of Talmud. Shutame HaMishnah. That's the reasons of the Mishnah. So he says like this, shei shanim tizra sadecha, that's Mishnah, which is very dry, just the wheat itself. Then you have Tizmar Karmecha, you have the level of enjoyment, which is the explanations of the Torah. And he says now in the parentheses, that's why it says Shei Shanim before, Hanim Kimikedim Shei Shanim, Tizra v'Tizmar, which is Esek HaTorah. Before you can deal in learning Torah, it has to be Mesiras Nefesh of Tefillah, which is Shav Sa'aris, the land becomes bottled. Simply means you don't work in the field. So do
we get the 1 year off from studying Torah every 7 years? And
when you take 1 year off breathing,
Oh,
Then you can have 1 year off from learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. It goes together. You want to take a break from Torah? I'm not in the mood of doing Torah mitzvahs today. So one time I'm telling you, if you're not in the mood of doing Torah mitzvahs today, say to yourself, I'll do it on the condition I don't breathe for a day.
Isn't it the reverse of the steps in baking? The end of the pasuk is
No. The ultimate goal is baking the bread. The bread is the sheishanim tizra sedech v'sheishanim tizra kamecha. The bread is Torah. Torah is called lechem. But in order to have bread, in order to learn Torah properly,
we come to Zruah.
you have to have all these other things beforehand. Otherwise, like you said, then if the Torah is not baked, you don't grind it, you don't plant it, you're not going to have bread. So he's saying though, you're not going to have sustenance without doing these 4 functions, steps. So, and the steps are basically the Aveda Tefillah and Bittul. Huh?
Yesterday we were in the middle of the phase. Did we skip Gimel?
Of course we learned.
We didn't do Gimel.
Yes, we did.
We did.
Yeah. Yesterday and the day before, we didn't. The whole union of the 10 women baking in one oven, the 10 kerchs of nefesh, and what you call it? Yeah.
We did that.
Yeah. Okay. The difference between water and fire, water connects and fire separates. Yeah, we did all that. Okay. V'nei b'aved sakedem, in the aved of a vineyard, tzarchu lezamer. What does tizmar mean? Likkutei sakeitzim, to cut off the weeds, the thorns. Hamachalim esaken, to destroy the vineyard. When you have to prune your vineyard, it means getting rid of the thorns in the way and all that. Because if one prunes, takes off the weeds, the Gemara says, Chayiv mishum neteya. What malacha is it? Planting. Because by removing the weeds, you're helping the vine grow properly. Mishum the smuche peirav is doing it for the growth of the fruit. Kacho aderech moshe. Limud that Talmud, to learn Talmud. Shubir halacha, which is refining of the halacha. Shemavarid eicha yasal kadaita, the Gemara explains the initial reaction of the Gemara. And the final result, v'chol hakush yasanei from the yasal kadaita sheba Gemara. Now he's saying like this. There's a Gemara, we learned it in Saita and Bab Metzia. The Gemara says, whoever paskins from a Mishnah, whoever makes halachic rulings based on a Mishnah, is havlei olam, destroy the world.
why?
That's what the Gemara says. Saita and Bab Metzia, other places. What does it mean? You're pasking from a Mishnah, what's wrong with it? The problem with Mishnah, so it's a wonderful thing, by the way, Mishnah is a very good thing. The problem with Mishnah, though, is it doesn't say the reasoning, it doesn't say how you got to that maskana, to that conclusion. Okay? So, if you just hear a halacha, and you don't know how it applies or the reason for the halacha, then you don't know where it applies, when it applies, if it applies.
How does it derive to that?
Not only that, because the halacha is made because of a certain fact. If the fact changes, then the halacha is different. That is where the Gemara comes into play. The Gemara tells you what the initial thinking of the Gemara was, how it came to that conclusion, when the conclusion applies. So that's what the Mishnah means. If you rule from a Mishnah, why? Because then you're not learning the reason for the halacha.
I think one of the Amoraim consultants said that about one of the Tanaim, that he was paskin up to Mishnah, but that doesn't make sense because that's all they had back then.
No.
Am I right?
No.
I'm not right. You can't be right? Because that's all they had back then.
Yeah, but it means is when you learn the halacha, you have to know the reason of the halacha. So machlekes between Rambam and Rosh. Okay, when you learn halacha, if you need to know the reasons for it. If you know the Rambam in his book doesn't bring down the reasons.
write.
Just says halacha, halacha. So the pasuk write the Beis Yosef in Shulchan Aruch also just writes the halachas. But the Beis Yosef was different because the Beis Yosef wrote a commentary on the Torah called Beis Yosef that explains the reasons of the mitzvahs. So therefore, when he writes in Shulchan Aruch, the halacha, he's relying on what he wrote in the commentary on the Torah, the Beis Yosef, explaining the reason for the halacha. In fact, Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch brings down the whole discussion of Shusterman Torah. If you have to learn it with explain it, Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch brings down the reasons when he writes what he writes.
Yeah. He's the only person
No.
who actually explains. No.
Sorry.
In case of
A lot of them do. What?
in case of Rambam, with the exception of Kabbalah, versatility in Kabbalah, he proved himself to be very well versed in everything else. I mean, he showed that.
By the
he's
way,
very
the Rambam
knowledgeable.
learned Kabbalah also.
Pardon?
The Rambam learned Kabbalah. Not as much as the...
acknowledged these two, though.
I know. There's a whole discussion in the commentaries if the Rambam was a Makubal or not. The Ramban for sure was a Makubal. The Rambam, they bring down many of those people that discuss these things, bring down that the Rambam was a Makubal, and therefore he started his book. You say this Vamur HaChochmes, which is an acronym for Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is a Kabbalistic concept. I mean, not that it doesn't exist in Halacha, but so they bring down the Rambam what did learn Kabbalah. Yeah, but the Rambam was unique. The Rambam was the first codifier.
Really?
In Torah Judaism, the Rambam was the first codifier.
Of Kabbalah, including Kabbalah?
No, I'm saying, but the Rambam learned
Yes,
Kabbalah.
he was, but
What?
He was the greatest Talmud that ever lived.
Rambam? Why? Where do you get that?
A lot of people say. No. A lot of people say. I've heard it so many times.
Rabbi Kiva wasn't a greater Talmud Chacham than the Rambam? No.
Because he knew also.
So what you're saying is something else. On the Rambam's tombstone, it says, Mimoshe ad Moshe lekom Moshe, right? And the Rebbe says nobody knows who wrote it, but the fact that it's there on the Rambam's tombstone, and this is accepted by all Gedolei Yisrael for all generations. And the Rebbe explains that the connection, I remember exactly the details now, but the Rebbe explains the connection between Rambam and Mimoshe ad Moshe lekom Moshe. Even though there are many other greater people than the Rambam, the Rambam can't argue on Rabbi Kiva.
Of course not.
Why?
Because he came before him.
And therefore,
Can't argue it.
why?
Because he came before him. It's the truth.
Because there are greater people.
Yes.
Okay, so that means he was a greater Talmud Chacham too.
The fact that he was able to take out the bottom.
That was a
every
unique
single thing.
quality of the Rambam, that he was able to codify and organize all the halachas from all over the place and put it into an organized thing. That didn't make him a greater Talmud Chacham. It was a certain talent that Rambam had as a codifier. I'm not saying he wasn't a big... The Rambam doesn't need my comment to say how great the Rambam was. But to say he was the greatest Talmud Chacham that ever lived is an incorrect statement. It's incorrect statement.
How do we know he was right?
Huh?
How do we know he was right about all those?
The halachas that he wrote? Taka, that's why there are commentators that argue on it.
left and right.
That's why there are arguments on the Rambam. Not only that, why did they want to burn the Rambam's books and all that? It wasn't only because they didn't know, they thought maybe it was an apicurus or something. Because the Rambam in his introduction writes, why is he calling it Mishnah Torah? Because you can go straight from Chumash to him and you don't need anything else in the middle. The Rambam says in his Akdama, now that I have my book, you don't need, basically saying, you don't need to learn Gemara, you can go straight from Chumash to my book. Okay? Basically the Rambam says you don't have to learn Gemara. So the poskim, in the contemporaries of the Rambam, would scream at the Rambam, because what were they afraid of? First of all, the Rambam is not always the halacha correct, right? And secondly, they didn't want people to stop learning Gemara. Gemara is the bread and butter of Torah. So therefore, the Ravid, let's say, who's one of the biggest arguers on the Rambam, when he argued on the Rambam, you should see the expression sometimes he writes. Only an idiot can say such a statement. It sounds like a behema. I mean, he was really, really sharp. Yet, the Ravid himself writes in his argument to the Rambam that the job of the Rambam nobody else could do.
Who is this?
The Ravid, Ravam ben David. He was a contemporary of the Rambam. So therefore, but they wrote very sharp expression that people shouldn't think, oh wow, they knocked the Rambam, but they meant it lishma. They didn't, like the Ravid himself writes how phenomenal the Rambam's job was able to do. Even Rabbeinu Tam, was Rashi's grandson, said that Rashi and Gemara I probably could have done also, like Rashi. But Rashi and Chumash, no, he couldn't have done. Rabbeinu Tam said that.
Said about Rashi.
Yeah, his grandfather. He said Rashi and Gemara,
Does Rambam has a Pirush of Chumash?
no. I mean, in the halachas, he explains certain psukim. So you can't say the Rambam is the biggest Talmid Chacham that ever lived. It's incorrect. That doesn't take away from that he was one from the greatest Talmid Chacham. Yeah, but not the greatest. What? Right.
So that means that there are people who are higher than the
That
Rambam.
doesn't mean that they're greater, it just means
Times have changed.
he gave his opinion on what his opinion still matters. On that level.
But there's a halacha that is not like him.
There's halachas that are not like the Beis Yosef also in Shulchan Aruch.
Doesn't make him.
The Ramah argues, now the Sfardim usually do what the Beis Yosef paskin. And the Ashkenazim do what the Ramah paskin. Because Beis Yosef primarily relying on the Rambam and Rif, or Sfardim. And the other, the Ramah relies on the Ashkenaz, the Rosh, Teisus, Rashba, Ravid.
That's it. So somebody says today is Friday. Somebody comes and says no, today is Shabbat.
Can't have an argument in the fact.
No, yeah.
I
That's
heard
not
Rabbi-
halacha. Meaning that somebody who's pushing him on the side and comes up with a new one.
Yeah, but Friday and Shabbos, it's either Friday or Shabbos. You do have a machlekes even today. You know why? Which day is Shabbos? But that's a separate issue.
Now I'm saying if there is a halacha and somebody else comes and gives his opinion that this halacha is correct, and if the
Yeah, but me and you can't do that.
No, of course not.
No.
I'm saying the second person who pushes on the side of the first person must be higher than the
No.